I had no idea how tough the California Delta was going to fish this past March for the Major League Fishing Toyota Series event, but I still managed to learn some stuff about the California Delta, and I also caught my personal best largemouth bass. So if you want to learn more about how to fish the Delta in early spring, make sure to watch this video all the way till the end. Thank you for clicking on this video. For anybody new, my name is Matt Loon and I make tournament fishing videos, on the water fishing videos, tackle making videos, and how-to videos. So if that kind of video sounds interesting to you, make sure to click that subscribe button right now. So going into practice for the California Delta, I knew the fishing was going to be tough, and I knew the lake was basically going to be a blank canvas for me because I'd never been there this early in the year. We were fishing the Delta in early March, and I've only been out there in late April, and there's a lot that goes on between that March and April timeframe. The fish are doing completely different things. Some have already spawned, some are in the middle of spawn, and some have yet to spawn. But in March, I knew it was going to be a pre-spawn deal, but the weather that we've had out in California totally messed things up, because in the past in March, on the California Delta, the weights have been gigantic, but that was not the case this year at the California Delta. So my first day out on the water was basically a half day. I launched the boat, I put the boat in the water, and the first couple things that I noticed is that the water was incredibly muddy and the water was still very, very cold. The water temps were in the high 40s to low 50s in the majority of the lake. The first day of fishing out there was pretty tough. I didn't have super high expectations on that half day of fishing. I didn't even catch a bass. I caught some striped bass, but no actual largemouth bass. The day was pretty tough, but I wasn't super bummed out or anything like that. It was the first half day I got out there. It was basically a bonus day because I drove up the night before, slept in my truck, finished the drive the next morning, and I got out on the water for a little bit. So this was just bonus information for me. So I was going into day two with a fresh look and a lot of optimism. Day two was the first full day of practice that I had out on the Delta. So I was still optimistic. I was still looking forward to getting out on the water and trying to put some of the pieces of the puzzle together. The fishing I knew was going to be tough based on the half day I had before, but I was still optimistic, thinking I could start figuring something out. I just needed a bite or two to point me in a direction, but that bite or two never came, and I only managed to catch a striper. The weather was pretty rough on day two of practice. It started raining towards the end of the day, and you know, at this point, I'm starting to feel that pressure of not being able to figure things out in practice. Typically, I would have 2 more full days of practice, but I knew the final day was going to be a toss-up on whether or not I could get out on the water because I knew the weather was going to be so bad. So I was already starting to feel some of that pressure because the fishing was so tough and I hadn't figured anything out. This tournament out on the California Delta was a pre-spawn early spring tournament. And a lot of times when you're getting into that spawning phase, you need to start being prepared to catch those fish that are on the beds. Because if you're fishing a tournament and those fish are on the bed, you've got to be sight fishing or you're going to get your butt kicked by the guys that are. Some of the biggest bags of the year are going to be caught when guys are sight fishing. And you need the right equipment to be able to sight fish effectively. And one of the best things that you can invest in for sight fishing is a pair of polarized sunglasses. These frames right here that I'm putting on are the Waterland bed fisher frames. They have a full frame on them, no lights coming through the side. Big frame, so no lights coming through the top and no lights coming through the bottom. And these specific frames come with 2 different lens colors that were designed specifically to see in the water to be able to help you catch those bedfish. One of my favorite frames to wear when I'm not out there looking at beds or anything like that is the Ashore frame. These are the ones that I like to wear on the water a lot because once again, they have a little bit fuller frame than some of the other ones, not quite as big, so it's gonna let more light in. So you're not gonna be able to see into the water quite as well as you would with the bed fisher frames, but these ones aren't quite as big, and I think that these ones, for me at least, have a little bit of a better style for what I like to wear. So head over to the waterlandco.com website and use discount code LUNA15 to save yourself 15% off. Once again, it's waterlandco.com. Use discount code LUNA15 to save 15% off. Like I said, I was feeling that pressure from not having a lot of practice days left. And one of them was probably not going to be fishable. So I'd just be getting ready for the tournament, not getting out on the water and figuring anything more out. So today, day 3 of practice might have been my last one out on the water. I decided to start flipping some different areas later on in the day, the weather warmed up a little bit and that water temp rose up with it as well. When that water is dirty and you have a good day of warm weather with that sun hitting the water all day, that water temp's going to warm up. So any of those fish that might have been moved out probably going to rush shallow to get some of that warmer water. So I started flipping a Katana Craw, which is a 3-inch craw bait that I make myself with the Do-It Molds Katana Kraw mold. I really like that mold and it makes a great bait. So I'm flipping that thing around and I managed to get bit. I'm flipping these isolated toolies and I catch one and it ends up being probably 3.5 to 4.5 pounds. I didn't weigh it or anything like that, but it was one that I would love to bring with me to the scales on tournament day. The reason I fished that specific part of the lake is because it looked like a spawning area to me. So after I got that bite, I left that area because I didn't want to catch any more fish that might be up there because I wanted to save it for tournament day because that's one of the only bites. That's the only bite that I had in practice. So I knew I was going back there on tournament day. So I went to another area that I knew about that looked like a spawning area to me, start flipping that Katana Craw around and I catch another one. It was a small one, but at this point I'll take anything because bites are not coming. So now that I had 2 of these bites on the Katana Craw, I didn't want to keep throwing that bait around in these areas I knew I was going to come back to in practice. So I changed up baits and put on the 6-cents crew in a very similar color. So now I'm flipping the 6-cents crew around and I managed to get 2 more bites in that same area. So I felt like I had a good little home base to go to come tournament time because I haven't gotten bit in a day and a half. And now I just got 4 bites in a small area of the lake on this 3rd day of practice. So now I feel like I have something finally that I can do on tournament day. So the final day of practice comes along and the weather is horrible. It's howling wind, the rain's falling, the wind's blowing the rain underneath the covered slips that we had our boats in. I literally had to rig up that day in my rain gear because the wind was blowing that rain into the slip so much. We had rollers coming through this area where our boats were in the slips, and that's behind a break wall for wind, and we still had some rollers coming in. The weather was just horrible. I'm kind of glad I didn't go fish. I don't think I would have really learned anything that day. Day 1 of the tournament comes, and I'm kind of living and dying on that Katana Craw flip bite that I had in practice. So I wanted to keep, reaction baits and a drop shot and stuff like that. I needed to keep that stuff honest in order to not feel like I overcommitted to the flip bite because I only had 2 to 4 bites on the flip. But I knew that the things were changing. That was the most warm weather that we had the entire trip so far. So I didn't know if that bite was really going to pan out. So I wanted to keep a chatterbait, spinnerbait, drop shot, and even a shallow square bill crankbait honest on that tournament day. The day was brutal for me, guys. I got 1 bite the entire day and I lost that fish. It, bit, I set the hook and it pulled that Katana Craw down on the hook. It just didn't have that bite all the way. My co-angler got bit and I go to net that fish and it's flopping around at the top of the surface inside of like a little tule patch and that fish comes off. And that's literally the only 2 bites that we had the entire day on day 1. I zeroed, I blanked, and that's day 1. But thankfully, on day 2, some really good things happen, so make sure to stay tuned because I catch my PB. If you guys have seen my boat is wrapped and it has the GCI Outdoor logo on it with their website, GCIOutdoor.com on it. GCI has been one of my biggest sponsors for years now. If it wasn't for GCI, I would not be able to fish all these events and get this kind of content out for you guys. They make outdoor chairs, outdoor tables, stadium seats, bleacher seats. They make a ton of great stuff for camping, lake days, beach days. Head over to their website through my affiliate link that I have down in the description of today's video. The only way that they're going to know that I sent you is if you go to their website and check out their products through the link in my description. It's an affiliate link. Once you click that link and go to their website, they know that I sent you over there. Check out their stuff if you guys camp, if you guys go out to the beach, go out to the lake, go out for a picnic, watch your kids play soccer, sit on bleachers ever. They have products for you and they make a great high quality product. Once again, guys, use the link that's down in the description. Head over to GCI Outdoors. I'd really appreciate it if you supported that company, bought some of their products. Just make sure to use it through my affiliate link so that way they know that I sent you. At any other tournament on the California Delta, if you blanked one day, you were 100% completely out of the event. You might as well drive home because the tournament is basically over for you. All I needed, all said and done after this tournament was over, was 15 pounds on day 2 in order to get me to day 3. 15 pounds on the California Delta is very doable in pretty much any other tournament that I've ever fished there. In this one, 15 pounds felt incredibly tough to get. But guys were catching that. Not a lot of them, so it left the door wide open to have a good day 2 and really get back into this thing. After day 1, I knew my flip thing wasn't really happening like I was hoping for. I was going to keep it honest on day 2 and still flip some things here and there, but I definitely needed to change up the game plan because what I had going obviously didn't work. So I go to my second spot, and I'm still keeping the reaction bite and that chatterbait honest because fishing a chatterbait at the California Delta is something that you need to be doing. If you're not throwing a chatterbait at all, you're probably doing something wrong unless you just found something incredible. So I pull up to my second spot, which was the mouth going into a spawning area, and I'm fishing the point leading into that spawning area, and I cast up, first cast with the chatterbait on that point, and I'm reeling that thing back, and boom, I get my first bite of the tournament. I get that fish to the boat, and it's a 4-pounder on the chatterbait. One of the cool things about the chatterbait is I modified it, changed that skirt out, poured up a custom trailer for it. So even though it was a jackhammer chatterbait, a lot of it was unique to me and what I was doing with that bait. So it's kind of rewarding to, make those adjustments myself and then get bit on the chatterbait and it be a good one. So I'm fishing some more of those spawning areas that in my mind on the graph look like spawning areas, and I get to a mouth of a spawning area and I'm throwing my spinnerbait. You can see some of these red ones up behind me, and I'm throwing a red spinnerbait and I'm just slow rolling it, ticking the grass, ticking some of the rock, and then boom, I get bit. And it wasn't a crazy giant bite. It was a very subtle little tick, not common for a spinnerbait, but I set the hook on it and that fish is in shallow water and it comes up and it's a giant. My co-angler thankfully was right there with the net, and we get that thing to the boat. The fish bit right underneath the boat almost, very, very close to the boat. Water was super dirty, so I don't think that boat pressure was really affecting that fish. Get it into the boat, and it's literally a giant. I didn't know how big it was at the time. I didn't weigh it or anything like that, but now I knew. I just set myself up to not only have a good day, but a massive day. Unfortunately, that massive day didn't end up coming together. I literally did not get another bite the entire day, but those 2 fish gave me a good day for this tournament on the Delta. I had a 4-pound largemouth and an 8-pound largemouth. The actual weight coming to the scales was 7 pounds 15 ounces, and I weighed 12 pounds. So the other one obviously was 4 pounds 1 ounce. That 715 ends up being my PB, which is cool. It was on the Do-It Molds Ultra Minnow Spinner Jig spinnerbait mold. I make those up myself. I've been using those spinnerbaits for years now, and it is by far my favorite spinnerbait. If you guys don't make your own tackle and you want to buy a spinnerbait that's comparable to the one that I make myself, I definitely recommend the 6 Cents spinnerbait. Caught some fish on that one already as well. Over the course of those 2 days of the tournament, I weighed in 12 pounds. 2 fish for 12 pounds. I ended up in 38th place, if you can believe it, with those 2 fish, which is basically right in the middle of the pack. And I actually am in 26th place in the Angler of the Year standings. And one of my big goals this year is to make the Toyota Series Championship out on Table Rock Lake. And I need to finish in the top 25 in order to make the championship. So I'm definitely right where I need to be in order to make that championship and head out to Missouri at Table Rock Lake later on this year. So the next tournament is up at the California Delta here very soon. So I need to have a good event in order to make that championship. And if you guys want to watch some more of the content in day 2 of this tournament from the California Delta, make sure to click on the video that's on the screen right now, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.